A decade from now, June 2nd, 2015 could be regarded as a turning point for Australian agriculture. It's the day the federal government, the Grains Research and Development Corporation and Bayer Crop Science committed to work together to find new chemistry to control herbicide-resistant broadacre weeds.
The problem we've got in Australia now, there's up to 39 species of plant, species of weed, which are actually resistant.
The agreement set in place a 5-year partnership with the investment of $45 million by GRDC to discover new molecules known to work on resistant Australian weeds.
With the new focus, the additional resources going into the discovery phase and the focus on Australian weeds and Australian conditions during that early selection of herbicides is really critical, and I think it does give us confidence that we will be successful.
At the Bayer Crop Science Weed Control Research Centre in Frankfurt, there's already more than 200 chemists and biologists at work on weed science. GRDC's investment adds another 33 postdoctorate positions to be filled by Australians, engaged to find new resistance-breaking technologies. Developing new herbicides can take up to 15 years and cost €200 million, or about 290 million Australian dollars.
We are testing around 100,000 or more compounds in our laboratories. We will then profile them in our greenhouses and we will use Australian weeds, and we test every year, depends on between 20 to 50 compounds in the field, and with this new concept we will test those screening compounds, the early compounds which have been identified as new herbicides also in Australia.
Partnering with Bayer means applying the latest technology to the R&D process.
We're looking to do the research in a different way from before. With new technologies that exist now in terms of looking at genetic markers and other things, we can find new starting points to find new chemistry. Right from the start, we'll be looking for adapted solutions directly for the Australian market. This will make Australia essentially a tier 1 country, if you like, in our basic screening activities.
Weeds cost Australian growers more than $3 billion each year. A big enough issue in itself. However, compounding that problem is the huge slowdown in the development of new herbicides.
In the 1990s, globally, we were seeing something like 250 patents registered each year. Currently, it's less than 50 per year.
It's been more than 20 years since the development of a herbicide with a new mode of action. Those with a mantra for less weeds and more crops welcome the investment in herbicide discovery.
In my opinion, I'd call it a surge. It's the use of GRDC funds to create a surge of activity on promising molecules, and we know what surges can do. They can boost and produce good things.
While any potential royalty revenue stream that comes from the partnership would be welcomed, new chemistry remains the focus for grain growers.
It's pretty evident that the pool of new chemistries coming through is very thin. So this announcement today gives Australian agriculture a leap forward in terms of the potential for new herbicides to be screened and brought into Australia to, in effect, help growers get a return on their investment through the research levy.
History will judge the success of the partnership. This is a big investment for GRDC to be making offshore, but going it alone in Australia was never really an option.
It's about tapping into the expertise where the expertise is. Everybody gave up, threw their hands in the air when Roundup was released because it was not only very effective, but it was very cheap to produce, and chemical companies said, we'll never be able to match the proposition that Roundup offers industry. Well, the fact of the matter is it lasted, 100% effective for 10 years, and it's been declining for the last 20. And the chemical industry has learned a lot out of that. They now know that there is no such thing as the last required herbicide.
Not to go offshore would cost grain growers and taxpayers even more.
To be honest, then it would go from needing $45 million to needing $450 million, because you're sitting on the back of so much invested plant that exists in Frankfurt that we don't want to have to rebuild. You've got to be smart about this. It's a global industry. You've got to be less parochial and more open to, have you already got that plant in place? Can we utilise with you? And what is the quid pro quo? If we invest with you, what do we get? And of course, it's a royalty stream. And so let's do business.
This agreement shortens the pathway to new chemistries, and for Australia's grain growers, that means more options.
If you look at the farming systems around the world, with the move to no-till, we've become very dependent on one chemistry, which is glyphosate. And if this project's successful, we'll have additional chemistries, we'll have additional tools in the toolkit for growers to be able to combat weeds with.